NBL bombshell tonight with Wildcats legend Bryce Cotton
has signed with the Adelaide 36ers.
But this may be the #1 free agent transaction of all time in the NBA.
And they've got the human Bryce Cotton cannot be stopped.
Giddy up, Sixers fans. That's coming your way this season. It's been a long time coming, but there's a little bit of hope back in the 36ers. This is Two Loose Cannons. I'm Lyon.
And I'm Ross.
What do you think? The GOAT coming home to Adelaide?
Oh, how's that? I mean, I think I texted you and I said, is this an April Fool's joke when I first heard the news? Like, couldn't believe it. Like, if you had said to me he was leaving Perth, Bryce Cotton was 60 years old.
You would have said
career there.
Where to? Sydney or Melbourne first?
Yeah, but, that would have been the other thing, Sydney or Melbourne. But I actually never thought he'd leave Perth, so I never thought it would ever be a conversation around him going anywhere. So, but to find out he's coming to the 36ers, I was like shocked. I think I'm still shocked. I don't think I believe it until I actually see him out in the court.
Yeah, you've seen those superimposed the 36ers jerseys? Oh, they look good. They look good. You know, to think it's not just also not bypassing Sydney, Melbourne. They are rivals.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, that's it.
Nobody saw that coming.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally agree with you. So yeah, it was just blew me away when I heard the news.
Yeah.
Just thought, wow, this is major. Now, what are they going to put around him? That's going to be the question.
Well, it looks like a lot of 3-point shooting.
Yeah.
So, we've got two shooting guards. We've got DJ and now Cotton as our starters.
Yeah.
But when you watch Perth anyway last season, Cotton is primarily the primary ball handler.
Yeah,
so
of course he is.
I don't think, it's going to hurt too much having two shooting guards there.
Yeah.
Plus, they're comparing, DJ Beveridge just compared himself to, this is Steph Curry and Klay Thompson all over again.
Exactly. Yeah.
NBL form.
I heard him say that.
You're a brave boy doing that, aren't you?
But you got to give it to him. He talks the talk and he walks the walk. I mean, he backs up what he says. So I have no problem with DJ saying that. So,
no, it should help him, shouldn't it?
Yeah, that's right. It should. Absolutely it should.
Because now they've got potentially 1 through to 4 that can shoot on the perimeter.
Yeah.
So at some stage, he's going to get free.
Yeah, of course he is.
But as long as he can accept that there's going to be times where you're going to be free, but you've also then got to pass, because there's times last season where DJ took it upon himself to shoot contested shots.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I think maybe having Bryce in the team will just
it'll free him up and you're right.
Slow him down a bit.
Yeah.
That he doesn't have to be the guy that has to shoot.
Yeah. Totally agree with you. Yeah. So words, mate. It'd be worth watching this season. It would definitely be just watch.
But have you followed the fallout from what's happened there? Did you see the Western Australian paper?
That's filthy.
Oh, I did. The Lion King. Brilliant. They love potting their legends over there when they leave.
Look, what's he given him? He must be 12, 14 years. What's he given?
Yeah, he's 2017, I think I heard was his first season.
Oh, was it? Okay,
yeah.
I thought it was longer than that. So.
Only because I heard when we signed him, our owner Grant Kelly come out and say that he took over the Sixers the year that he came, and that was 2017.
Okay,
that's the only reason I know that.
Well, it feels like it's longer than
it does.
Yeah,
because he's packed in 5 MVPs, 3 championships, and I think 2 NBL final MVPs. So look out, 36ers. Yeah. So got me thinking. Biggest signings to a South Australian team in the history of South Australian sports. So top 5. I've given a little bit of thought. I'll roll with mine first, and then I'll let you have some time to think about it.
Yeah.
So the biggest signing I had of signing for a South Australian team was Don Bradman coming across from New South Wales to the Sacca. It speaks for itself. The GOAT of all sports players, average of 99.94, phenomenal. You can't bypass that. And how often is it that you get a GOAT of the sport signed for your local team?
Yeah,
massive. Yeah. So I can't go past Bradman at 1. Number 2, I went for Bryce Cotton, and it's not recency bias. Again, how often do you get a 5-time MVP come to your club?
Yeah.
And also the reigning MVP. So we're not talking about some washed up has-been that's spent his career. A bit like what number 3 is going to be. we've got a guy that's in his prime, and he's got another couple of years to play out. So, look, Bryce Cotton, number 2 all day. Number 3, I got the greatest centre-half forward of all time, washed up, but still the greatest centre-half forward, Carey. If it wasn't for that goal post, he would have delivered us a flag.
Would Carey be in your list if he didn't play for the Crows? If he'd gone to court, would he still be in?
Yeah, I think he would.
Okay.
I think he would. And I do have a Port player in the list, so it's not Crows Port here. It's just, again,
I'm just wondering.
greatest centre-half
It was
forward
a
of all time.
2-year career. It was not something. Come on,
Look,
it's your list.
I understand, but I'm talking about publicity.
Yeah, you're right.
Popularity.
It did bring a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, at the time it was couldn't walk anywhere without somebody saying anything about it, and even non-sports fans were talking about it. So that's why I've gone for Wayne Carey at 3 years.
Yeah.
His tenure wasn't great. He was finding his form before that. He decided to take on a goalpost, but we'll close that there. So number 4, I went with Romario. Now this was only a guest spot, and I argued with you about this before we came on air.
Yep.
What was it, 3 to 5 games?
I think it was a 5-gamer. Yeah.
Sold out High Marsh every single game.
Yeah.
But again, someone that was chasing a goal tally of beyond 1,000.
Yeah, beyond 1,000.
Remarkable to have someone of that caliber to come here. Even if he wasn't, we rolled him out in a wheelchair. He did score, so thank God he did.
I think it was game 3, wasn't it? Game 3.
Yeah. Could you imagine he gets through that 5-game stint and not score?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he delivered, good enough for me to be number 4.
Mm.
And then number 5, I've got Gavin Wangadine, former Brownlow medalist, coming home to Port Power. And he ended up winning a flag with Port.
Yep.
Couldn't have done anything more for him.
Yep.
So who would you go with your 5?
Solid list. Bradman, I agree with you. Bradman, that has to be the biggest signing for anybody who loves sport and, like you said, the goat of anything. If he swaps from a New South Wales, and New South Wales were absolute kings back then. If you look at the history books, they were winning all the Sheffield Shields. So, he left success to come to a probably struggling SA side. But the reason he did it, and for those of us who've actually met him, and I've had a chat to him about it, and he loved Adelaide. He fell in love with the city, so he decided to come here. So, Phil Smythe, he took, after King Cole and the incidents with King Cole, he was a Canberra cannon. He was another one, a bit like Bryce Cotton, who you just thought would never leave Canberra. He loved the place, and they managed to get him back here, and he delivered, a 3-peat?
Yeah.
For the 36ers. So I think, Phil Smythe.
I never got to watch him play live, but I've seen him.
Yeah. He was a good player. They called him the general for a reason. He marshalled the troops. He was, in total control. He went to, what was it? I think it was 4. At the time, it was a record 4, 5 Olympics, and 3 of those were as captain. So, you don't get to that position without, having some talent.
Being a decent player.
Yeah. Ryan Harris, to come back and just take Saka and just deliver not just 1, but 2 trophies.
Yeah.
They should make him the strikers coach as well, see if he can get the 3. I think that was major. Look, he left here, and I don't want to say difficult circumstances, but when he left, he was our best bowler and our best batsman. And yet they shipped him out for whatever reason. And, for him to come back and deliver what he delivered, I think that.
Look, he had to leave to get to that next level.
Yeah, he did. And that full credit to him. He went to Queensland. He performs there. He makes the Australian side. So it did benefit his career, definitely.
Yeah, and that's a good one to have at number 3. Again, I wouldn't have thought Ryan Harris, but thinking about it, again, long-starving South Australian
absolutely
Shield drought, broken.
Yep.
His first year of coach. And I think we've spoken about this on one of our earlier shows, his training tactics.
Yeah.
If you don't rock up willing to train at your absolute grit, just go home.
That's right.
Just go home. If you need to hit the beers, hit the beers. I love that.
Yeah. And look, cricket's one of those games I think you can sort of do that.
It's mindset.
The training, like back in the 80s, the guys used to, the booms of the world. You hear about him on a flight to England. What was it, 63 cans or world record 63 cans? Do you imagine him and Andre the Giant drinking together? Jeez.
You'd back Booney in,
yeah, right. So, he'd give him a run. before I've gone Craig Goodwin. You know, young talent, leaves Adelaide, makes his mark in the EPL. Could have gone to, again, he's another one who could have gone to the major markets, could have ended up in Sydney, could have ended, they were throwing money at him, they wanted him. To his credit, he comes home to SA. You know, so that was major because when he came back, he was still a good player. So, you know, full credit to him for returning home. And this one's going to surprise you. You can debate this or not, but I've gone Ken Hinkley at 5 because he took a crippled, and I mean a crippled Port Adelaide, and just made him relevant again. There was a 2 or 3 year span where we were, you know, the sweethearts of the AFL. Everybody wanted to see Port do well, and that was full credit to him. The way he spoke, the way the players played, he brought in a really good system, made it really good, made us good to watch. And I think for just that fact, he took a crippled side and brought them up is, you know, why he spent, what is it now, 13 seasons, 12 years, 13 seasons as head coach of that side. And is, you know.
But do you think that another coach could have come in and done that job?
I don't know. So it's always the
You're never going to know
moment, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I mean,
that's the primus.
Which one's at Geelong? I always mix them up.
Chris Scott.
Chris Scott.
Yeah.
So Chris, he was up against Primus for that position when Primus got the job. And I reckon the only reason he didn't get it was because he walked in and just demanded the world. Basically said, I run the show. You guys do what I tell you to do. And they sort of went, you've got nothing behind you. But that gave him the impetus to go then to Geelong and know, this is how I can do the interview of Geelong. So I don't know. That's a good question. Could he have, Chris Scott, could he have walked in and done maybe even better than Hinkley? Maybe he could have delivered a premiership or a grand final. We'll never know. But I just know that for that side in 2013, when Hinkley walked through the door, it was doom and gloom. We'd lost Johnny Mack to that incident in Vegas. We had 2 players walk out. Troy Chapman was slapping everybody on the way out the door and saying how the club would never go anywhere. And, you know, doom and gloom over the summer. They'd hired Hinkley. Nobody knew what he was going to bring. Nobody knew if he was going to perform. And then all of a sudden, we beat Collingwood in the qualifying final or whatever it was. And off we go. And we made the prelim the next year. So he brought a lot of relevance to the side, and actually the tarps were taken away. And finally we felt like we had some sort of future.
Yeah, okay, fair call.
Yeah.
Brings you to the question. You've got a question from one of the fans about Ken.
Question from Mama Bear. She wants to know, should Ken have the right to call it, or does the board call it for him, being the bye this week? So,
it's going to be an interesting week down at Adelaide.
I think, from what I'm hearing, they've basically backed him in and said, it's his. He gets to coach until the end of the year. So I don't see anything changing.
Do you think that he might make that call? I mean, you find him nicer than I do.
I don't know. I personally, after everything I just said about him, personally, I hope he does, because everything I'm hearing at the moment is what Adam Uze said at the beginning of his first season. When they were talking to him about how difficult it was to get those guys back and only have them for that build up to Christmas. Then they took that break at Christmas, and only to have him for that, whatever it was, 4 or 5 weeks after Christmas, was so hard to embed the game plan. It was just, that's why they struggled that first year under Uze. And I think Josh Carr could really benefit. And we know about Josh Carr, because there's a lot of questions about Josh Carr. Now, everywhere Josh Carr's gone, he's had success, but that's all at lower level. That's at Waffle, and that's Samples.
Samples, yeah.
Okay, but he's won premierships at those levels. I know people at North Adelaide who reckon he was a brilliant coach.
Yeah.
So,
do you think that this year Ken's helping Kari by taking some of the brunt, by blooding some of the youngsters, and so maybe that's protecting?
I think that's because they have to. They've got no choice. I mean, look at the injury list. No one at the moment can even get on the park. Let's face it. So I think that's a byproduct of the fact, because this wouldn't be happening if the players were available. Yeah. So, you wouldn't be blooding these kids for sure. Now, would we be in the same position? Would we still be, what are we now, 4-7?
Yeah.
I don't know if we had everybody there from the beginning of the season. these second half fade outs are driving me mad. And I've said this so many times.
Comes with a young team, though. Look at West Coast yesterday.
Game, not every single game. Lee. You can point to every single game we played this year and see that they've at least had one quarter, even if it was the last quarter against you guys, where they faded out. They were right in it up to their eyeballs, and then they just, and it's been every game. And the fade outs in the big losses, they put up a caption, I think it was on the Sunday Finish show. I think it was Damien Barrett put up something that said we'd kick something like 8-16 or 6-18, something like that, to 45. Other teams have had 70 scoring shots against us.
Yeah.
So that's 45-35 or something like that. So 70 scoring shots in the second half in those 4 blowouts. So
yeah, it's pretty damning.
It's just, you can't be doing that. And it's a 4-quarter game. You got to play, look, no,
we've got to the middle of the season. You have one last quarter.
Well, what is that? I don't know where this has come from. I mean, we were never that unfit, surely. This isn't something that carried over from last year or anything like that. Like, we didn't see this. So that's the most shocking thing of it, I think. But, I mean, look, the interesting thing is no one thought we'd be anywhere near it anyway. So, and in fact, a few of them, when I look back over the tipping for the beginning of the year,
didn't have to.
Virtually no one had us in the 8, and most of us had us finishing where we are at the moment, which is bottom 4, bottom 5. So, I was hoping that emotion of Ken's last year might carry us through, but that's obviously not happening.
It's a punch in the guts as well, because you don't have your first round pick either.
No, that's right.
No, so
that's gone.
Yeah, you hope you fudge that position up a bit.
Well, the lower, exactly. The lower,
so
better it is a Collingwood,
Yeah, that's it. So Collingwood's rubbing their hands together.
Yeah, that's right.
So your football manager, Chris Davies, is out today singing the praises, or should I say, wallpapering the cracks. This guy comes out, he comes across like a yes man, an absolute yes man. I've argued about this for years.
Yeah. I'll give you credit. You picked him as that.
He's a walking doorknob.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why the AFL were interested in him at the end of last year, because he comes across like an absolute yes man, and he would do anything that the big brass of the AFL would want.
And when we spoke about this, remember last year, we were sitting there, we were having a chat about it, and you said, what did I think about it? And I said, I take him.
Yeah, you did. And that was the first time I heard you say that, because
I started to come around to your thinking and just realising that you're spot on.
He's a great employee for Koshi, because he'll do whatever Koshi says.
Yeah.
Again, I can't say for what happens behind closed doors, but his public speaking, and look, it is part of the role is to try to defend what you've got. But there was, was it a couple of years when there was an opportunity to push Ken out the door? He stood up for it.
Yeah.
That was the time for him to pull that chair and go, nah, time to move on.
Yeah.
But he didn't, because I think even then Koshi was sort of thinking, well, maybe we cut ties here. Yeah. But it was Chris Davies that went into
kept him
so hard for him.
Yeah. And look, so it depends on what your thoughts are on Ken. Is he an overachiever or is he an underachiever? There are a lot of supporters who think he's an underachiever, and there's a lot of people outside of the Port supporter base who think Ken has taken that list and turned it into something rather than them underachieving. So it depends on which side of the coin you fall.
Well, I've said for a couple of years, even when you were strong, looking close to being into the Grandy, that list had too many holes. It was fatal holes. And I thought it was an exceptional job that he did to get used to that limit. And you were close a couple of times just to kick away against Richmond.
And how many times did I say to you they got rid of the defender they needed in Dougal Howard?
Yeah.
They were screaming for a 200-centimetre defender. They had him and they traded him off to St Kilda. And then they went 2-3 years trying to get Radigalia, or they messed around, thought we'd cover the... You're right.
And so what was the reasoning trading Dougal Howard around? Was it just...
Depends.
You don't know what
depends on what story you believe. The club says that they wanted him to play forward and he said, no, I'm a backman.
Yeah.
And so he wasn't willing to toe the
team line.
The team line. Club said, they asked him to play forward and he said, no, I'm a backman.
Yeah.
And they went, well, if that's what you think, then perhaps you need to go play for someone else.
Yeah.
So, and that's always been the club line, always.
Yeah. So yeah, you had holes. So yeah, he was definitely an overachiever. This is Ken. An overachiever in my eyes. But yeah, I can understand 11 years in the job, no flag. I can also understand your supporters going.
I'd have been a grand final. Yeah, I mean, if he got to a grand final or two, then you could say, okay. Well,
And
you look at Longmire, he got to how many grand finals? They lost them, but he's got one under his belt.
Yep. Like I said for years as well, your list management always seems to get lauded because they get the deals done. So you get Jason Horn-Francis in, you get Alira in, you get Radicalier in, you get Zerk Thatcher in, and you get a pat on the back come trade week. But when it all gets put together, it doesn't work because you've sacrificed youth to bring these boys in, and they're not the guys that's going to get you to that next level. So you've paid a premium for guys that are going to get you and keep you there or thereabouts, but not quite take you to that next level, which was what you were seeking for those years. So, yeah, look, I think list management has let you down. Again, it's something the AFL industry would disagree with me, but I think it has.
But again, what's list management's job? It's not to win tomorrow. List management is almost to
but
build
list
that
management has been in how long?
for 3 to 5 years.
Too long. And so where has he got you? You're going backwards now.
Well, yeah, eventually have to. Like, if you believe we're top down and you believe we've overachieved, then backwards was the only place we could go, because the next step was making a granny. Yeah. So it was always going to fall. It was just a matter of when it fell. That's all.
So, how much of Dixon's loss this year has hurt you? Because
I don't know, because Dixon didn't really play that much last year, to be honest with you.
No, but when he was there,
he was a presence. He was a presence. Yeah.
You were delivering the ball in deeper. Yeah. This year, you've had to lower the eyes. You're getting shallow entries. The ball's coming out far too quick. It's not giving your defenders enough time to defend. Yeah. So, although he wasn't having the impact,
and then I always said he had value beyond just a mark and kick, Dixon. That's why I thought that, they should have been playing Salto as a stick in that Dixon role.
Yeah, you have. You've been.
I said that from the very start. I said, you've got the perfect replacement for him because he's physical. He can take a grab. And in fact, he's probably a better kick than Dixon. And he can go on the right. He can second right.
He's desperate to play too. So
that's it. He is desperate to play. They tried it once and I don't think it worked. So they just went, this is what's it.
Yeah, I know. But one game. Come on.
I know. I agree with you. But I thought he would have been perfect to play in that Dixon role. You chuck him forward for, 70, 80%, and he rucks for the other 20, 30.
Yeah.
He gives you that aggression. He'll lock it in. He'll go in hard. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
And like I said, he's probably a better mark and a better kick than Dixon. So, and I don't know why they didn't persist. Maybe Lord, it would have been at Belt's expense.
Yeah, that's it. And they wouldn't play Lord because they're going to lose Lord.
Yeah, so maybe that's the reason why he's out of that side. But they put Finlayson back in, and that's why Finlayson's there now.
All right,
as the second right forward. So you might as well play Salto in that role, to be honest with you.
So you're throwing magnets around here now. We're at the halfway mark of the season. Assuming Ken's there, Ken's not there, who cares? What moves would you make if you were sitting on that chair that you want to look at that can sort of, I don't know, you're not looking to propel, but you're looking to give yourself something to start with 2026?
Jeez, that's a good question. If I had the madness, I don't know what I'd be doing then.
You think
it's not
really
much really working?
No. So it's mainly you're looking at structure change.
It's just a matter of, if he was to come in, could there be that little bit more toughness? If Carr came in, is there that little bit less compromising and looking at players and going, well, you've played 4 or 5 years for me under Ken, so Ken's got that loyalty towards players who aren't probably playing as well. Maybe Carr comes in and just decides to blood all the kids.
Yeah.
Maybe he just goes, hey, what do we got? Let's have a look, because I need to know.
And I think at some stage that will happen. I don't think Ken's going to walk out at the end of this mid-season break. I think he's going to give it maybe 5 or 6 weeks and then maybe walk and give Carr the last 5 games. Yeah, I've got a question from Scott in regards to Ross Lyon's Nepo baby comments at the start of the St Kilda Gold Coast game. So what he wants to know was Ross Lyon's Nepo baby comments out of order? And what did we think of Hardwick's follow-up comments? So just for anybody who doesn't know, according to the Oxford Dictionary, Nepo is a term used to describe a child of a famous or influential parent, typically in the entertainment industry, who has achieved success or opportunities due to a family connection. So, of course,
saying it's the
it's the love child of the AFL.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Let's give the AFL.
Well, it's the one team that hasn't made the finals. I mean, even GWS is obviously gone a few years. They've made the finals consecutive. They made a grand final. So it is the one team that is struggling. It's struggling for support. So yeah, I think AFL are rubbing their hands together, thinking, "Thank goodness this team's finally coming around." So, but as far as look, Ross Lyon comes from a position of his team's failing, I think.
Oh yeah,
at the moment. So,
and that's the line Hardwick took was, worry about your own backyard.
That's right.
But did you
Pretty
hear
much.
Hardwick's comments?
I heard bits of it. Yeah.
Bits of it. So he goes on to say that, he's coached at Richmond. He's now coached at Gold Coast. Now, they don't get a lot.
No.
But on the other hand, he's got a nice little academy that has some cherry ripe and the players that have come out of that academy, you don't get through normal draft picks.
No, you don't. That's right.
Yeah. It was a bit rich for Hardwick. I don't agree with what he was saying. And then he went on to say about, St Kilda's 15,000 crowds. Again, take your pot. Yeah, there was only 15,000 there on Sunday. That's a dead time slot anyway, 4:40 on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, it is.
And for whatever reasons, Victorians don't like turning up. Even Collingwood had to draw dreadful crowds to those games.
Yeah, they did a poll on SEN, and what's wrong with... They said, what's a better place to play, the MCG or Marvel? Which I thought was a stupid question, but anyway, because everybody's picking the MCG, and virtually most of the comments that were coming back was the MCG's got sold on, Marvel's got is soulless. There were very few people who stuck up for Marvel and said, I prefer to go watch a game there. You've been to Marvel?
Been outside, and I haven't been in there.
Well, I've gone to see several games at Marvel, and they're right. If I had a choice between the MCG and Marvel, it's MCG every day.
Yeah.
But it's a place you got to go. It's a place you got to play. It's a place, if your team's there and you want to travel to Melbourne. I mean, we played Collingwood there once, and it was, even the Collingwood supporters were like, what are we trying here? Yeah. Exactly. Why aren't we at the G? So,
That's a bit rich from Hardwick to pop St Kilda's 15,000 going to the game. When
you're right.
How many did Gold Coast draw a game?
But you've got to remember, I agree with you. It is a bit rich for pop. But Gold Coast is not a traditional AFL.
No, I agree. But, don't be potting people for crowds when your backyard's only drawing 15,000.
Yeah.
What he should have done was actually said, well, look, these concessions are in place so that we can get our 15,000 crowd up.
That's right.
But, he just used it in a way to pot.
But it's not the cost of living in Sydney and Brisbane when they had that, and then they had to take it away because Collingwood was kicking up and this one was kicking up, and that one was kicking up. It's unfair.
How soon getting a Melbourne start asking for concessions because it's bloody expensive to travel to Melbourne. So what's it like to live there?
Well, it's still not as expensive as what it is to live in Sydney.
It's getting that way though. Their population size growing well beyond Sydney.
Yeah, look,
so it's only a matter of time.
But it's traditional footy ground, traditional heartland.
Yeah, no, that's what it's all about. It's about retention for.
That's right. It's easier to I guarantee you, it's easier to recruit to a team in Melbourne than it is to recruit to a team.
Oh, no doubt. 9 times out of 10.
And they're just recruiting that side outside.
Yeah, that's it.
But, even players who are from WA or from SA are still preferring to stay in Melbourne and play for the bigger teams there than to come home. And unless it's at, towards the end of their careers.
Yeah.
And they're thinking about setting themselves up on what they're going to do after footy. So that, if some of us see a future coming back home, like a newborn who probably thinks, okay, I've got a family now. Mum and dad are back here. Family's back here. Everybody's back here. Might be trying to make the move back here for the last, 4 or 5 years of my career. That's when you tend to see people coming back. It's, in the result of a Horn Francis where he decides to come back because he's homesick. But most SA players, as you well know, and tend to stay.
End up settling. Yeah.
And some of them even end up settling there and never come back. Look at Dwayne Russell.
Yeah.
Atherton boy, and he's never
Never
never returned after he went to Geelong. So it's a lifestyle, mate.
Yeah, it is. It is. So from one controversial coach to another, Luke Beveridge. You've got a question about Luke Beveridge?
Oh, geez, and it comes from Rhino. So was he in the wrong? Basically, was Beveridge in the wrong to confront Kane Cornes? And is he the biggest bully in the AFL? Was he wrong to confront Kane Cornes? Look, it was a drive-by. Let's face it. I don't think Cornes backed down at all. In fact, if you saw the
staring him off,
he stared him down and he took steps towards him. Like, what are you going to do about it? Basically, goaded him, which to me made Beveridge look even more foolish, because here's this tiny, scrawny thing walking towards him, and Beveridge is a bear of a bloke, but he's massive, and like Kane Cornes is just like, what do you want? As far as if I don't know if he's the biggest bully in the AFL. I still think maybe there's a couple of other guys I'd put ahead of him. I won't mention them. I end up getting sued. Who knows?
Yeah, you're walking out.
I'm walking on eggshells at the moment after the comments I made earlier. But look, he is who he is, and I have no problem sticking up for your side. I just think it was just taste. That's my opinion. And I have no love for Kane. I mean, don't go on, he's one of your boys.
Yeah, he's one of your boys, club legend. Come on.
I've said many times on this show that I think he's overstepped. And he's overstepped once. And the way he's doing business at the moment, I don't like it.
Well, I was going to say, so who's the bigger bully? Kane Cornes or Beveridge? Because now he's locked out 2 clubs now. So
the thing with Kane is that if you look at his comments and what he says, and then historically, they're, I don't know, 85% correct historically. But he makes the big call when no one else is willing to make it. And then it might take 2 years sometimes for it to actually come to fruition. But he made the call on West Coast back in 2019 or 20. And people were going, what are you talking about? These guys just played in the grand final. You can't be serious. And then we hit 22, 23, and everything he had said the 2-3 years previous, they're going, oh, yeah, you might have been right, Kane.
Yeah.
So historically, he's been
even still like, it's still down to him, because West Coast seemed to just get away with murder as far as, he goes, and maybe it's the money, maybe it's the power. But where's that
supporter base too?
Yeah,
people rock up to the games. They're not struggling. That's the other thing. They're not a burden on the AFL. They're not struggling. People are still rocking up to the games. It might have dwindled a little bit now, but
I'm resisting the urge to pot them for a 3rd week in a row.
Well, go for it, mate. If you're a pot them,
no. Done to death. Same goal lost on the weekend against the Crows that put up the hammocks. Nothing really needs to be said there, is that?
Well, and that was expected anyway. I mean, if you guys didn't win that game by 10 goals, I would have said you were taking it easy.
I know, they Larised though. There was a complete... we were disrespectful for the first half.
I was shocked to find out that was your biggest win of the season.
I know, same. But they really stepped on the gas in that last quarter. It just shows you how much of a shambles West Coast are. You're able to just rock up for 10 minutes and kill a game and get a tackle.
But going back to the question, look, I think Bevo it was a bit of a drive-by, and it happened. It gave everybody a bit of something to talk about, but it's a non-event. Let's face it. I personally, I don't know about you, personally, when I saw it, I thought Beveridge was silly. The way Cornes was walking towards him and yapping back. So
yeah.
I just thought, what was the point of all that?
Yeah, no one came out of that looking.
No, that's right.
I think you've summed that up pretty well. So I wanted to chat. So this is a question from me to both of us. Liam Baker, his little elbow and drive into the back of the head of Peatland gets 0 weeks but a $10,000 fine.
$10,000 fine. That's a joke.
And then Pearce goes for the ball. Yeah, look, Pearce braced for contact, and then he's got his 3 weeks, which I think we're both in the range there.
Yeah, but they're challenging.
It's modern AFL, so it's a suspension. Look, Pearce isn't dirty. Did probably what I would have done in that situation, but you just got to copy your weeks.
Yeah.
That's the way it is these days.
I think they looked at it and you could see Pearce take his eye off the ball and look at Burne-Jones coming at him, and that's where he's in trouble. The minute he does that for some reason the MRO or the AFL or whoever it is look at it completely different and think, well, you had a chance there to pull out or not go as hard or not to brace or not do this or not do that. Anybody who's played the game will tell you it's instinct.
Look, so
You're running on instinct at that point.
I'm going to lose breath here. I'm lose patience on it too, because the AFL year after year need to look at this pyramid, the hierarchy that they use to assess these incidents, and work out a better way of doing things. Because the hierarchy should have removed the hierarchy altogether. And look, they brought that in for consistency. Instances like Baker's forearm into the back of Bigland's head, driving him into the turf, that should be assessed differently. That should be assessed. We all know that that's a grubby act. So give them weeks accordingly. You know.
So what was it? What did you think it deserved?
Well, people were saying, well, that's worse than Pierce.
No. Well, I don't know if it's worse.
Well, it is, because it's a deliberate act.
Well,
do we want our community footballers watching that, or our young footballers watching that out there on the weekend? They're going to go out and do the same thing. They're not going to get suspended, are they?
Well, they will, because it's different rules in the amateurs and in the junior ranks. So,
well, they could seriously argue. Well,
they're not going to argue.
Don't defend that. Well, not junior,
so therefore
not junior footballers, but I can imagine, you know, your weekend warriors would. I don't like it.
But the guys who do that are going to do it regardless of whether Liam Baker does it or not. So
yeah, you're right. You're right.
Be one.
But they use that as a shield.
Use
that as a shield.
Yeah. Look, at the end of it, you're right. I thought a week when I saw it, to find out he got a $10,000 fine was just where's the number even come from?
No, and he's on a fresh, juicy contract at West Coast that'll help with that.
Yeah, so I was shocked to hear. In fact, a lot of people were, when I was listening to SEN earlier, they were like, well, what is this? How do you even get to that number without a suspension?
Yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah, it's rubbish. It's just rubbish. So, yeah, I think we both agree, blow up the hierarchy, start again at the end of this year. But it has to change.
Yeah.
Because we're having far too many incidences, not just this one, but all the incidences in the AFL, because the game has changed.
Yeah.
It's not catering to what we're seeing.
Yeah, I agree.
So, next question. I think you got one about the premiership.
Well, you know, this came from Leo, and he wanted to know, it's the mid-season, and who do we think the premiership favourite is? I still think it's a little bit early in the year to be thinking premiership favourites, but if you look at the top two, I think they're Brisbane Collingwood. I think that's where it's going to happen. I think if Brisbane actually do get back to the form they were last year, I think we're looking at, definitely.
Yeah, I can't look outside of those two.
I don't see anybody lifting that much unless Hawthorn can find something in the second half of the year.
I don't see it.
But that's you know, if they get Will Day back, they're a different team with Will Day.
They are. But you know, that midfield has been exposed, so it's not the same.
Yeah.
As like last year, I think maybe it was a honeymoon period for
maybe. But I also think that Sicily's like, what's going on with him? Like, acting like a petulant child.
But he's always been a petulant child.
I understand.
You didn't see it so much last year because they're winning.
Yeah. But then you're right. He has. He's always been that aggressive guy who, you know, who questioned the umpires and did. You know,
I thought you'd sympathise with him. Your whole head is saying.
Look, I just think he hasn't matured. The older he's got, he hasn't matured at all.
No.
And when someone who's in that club for the first year was pulling him away from the umpire and saying, "Come on, mate, let's get on with it." Like, you just cost us a goal.
Well, I mean,
that's hemming as captain, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Look at his final last year against you guys. Missed that shot and still was gobbing off after the side.
Yeah, you're right. But that he was gobbing off more because of what Ken did.
I know, but bloody hell, you don't do that when you've cost your team the game.
Yeah,
because you could have won it.
Yeah,
shut your mouth, get your boys off the ground, lick your wounds, take that into preseason, and get back on the track and beat those guys next year.
Yeah. No, I know, and I honestly believe if Hawthorn can find what they had last year, they could be the third favourite. Could be. I don't know if they will be. What about you think the same?
Yeah, I've got Brisbane, Collingwood.
In that order? Brisbane, Collingwood?
I think so. And yeah, look, there's still question marks on Brisbane's forward line, but you saw on the weekend, when their midfield's up and going, it doesn't matter who's up. Those mid-forwards, they're dangerous matchups. You've got 4 or 5 of them that can be electric.
Yeah. Well, Cameron finally showed up.
Yeah, well, that's it. So, but you don't need Cameron to show up every week because you've got Loman, they're deadly. They're absolutely deadly. So A lot of sides don't have 4 to 5 quality mid-sized defenders that can stop all of them. So one or two of them will get off the chain and kick a winning score.
Yeah, that's right.
Just a quick one. This is something that's popped into my head. Crows top 4. They're sitting 4th at the moment. I don't see them as a top 4 team. But then I look at the ladder and go, who is that 4th spot?
Well, you draw hell, that's for sure. But you're right. But there are those around them. The Bulldogs, I think, will be okay.
Yeah, that's
Geelong
I'm happy
will be
with third
okay.
seeding.
Geelong will be up there. I think Geelong are 3rd. I think Bulldogs are 4th or 5th. Hawthorn will still be around the mark. You guys will be there because probably more because of a draw. It'd be interesting to see if you do finish whatever 5, 6, 7, whatever it might be. What you get next year as far as the draw goes.
We won't be doing a final shot tonight, Paul. This is just completely off the cuff. The Crows don't beat Sydney this weekend, they will not finish top 4.
Yeah.
But there's no doubt about it. They have to start winning these games.
I don't think you'll. I say that in all. I don't think you'll have a problem with Sydney, but then I just don't. I can't gauge Sydney.
No, they have 1 week that they're deplorable like this week. But you can guarantee come this weekend they'll be up and about. But this is the games that if the Crows want to play finals and want to take that next step, they have to win.
The thing with playing Sydney in Sydney is that ground. It's a tough ground to play. It is. You have to have a good game plan going in there and how to play that ground because of the dimensions of it and the fact that the wings are so wide out. It is hard to play.
Yeah.
So that's where their advantage is. And if they force you wide, then it can be a difficult game. But I don't think their injuries are horrendous as well. Like they've got probably 8. I think someone said it's either 6 or 8 of their.
Yeah, they do have a huge injury list. Yes, I had to look through the list of names that ran out, and there was at least 6 or 7 I didn't even recognise that maybe have only played under 10 games.
Yes. And what's his name? Amadi got himself suspended, so
that's handy. 9-goal Amadi party not happening this weekend.
So you should not have any problem. In fact, if you don't win that game, good.
That's what I'm saying. If they don't win this weekend, then
you
top 4 done.
I can see you winning that by 5 to 7.
And if in fact if they lose this week, they may end up missing finals. It's time to stand up.
Yeah, look, I don't think that's a problem, but stranger things have happened. I didn't think the GWS could go down to Geelong and beat Geelong. So what's the old saying? Having any given Sunday. So,
any given Sunday. Puncher's chance too. Yeah, everyone has a shot,
and it's at home again. Yeah. They're not coming here. They're playing on their dung heap, that shifting surface.
I'll tell you what, if one of the Crows players doesn't need that, expect
you don't lose your number 1 love child in Tilthorpe to a sliding surface, mate.
Well, this is
the time to rest Tilthorpe and play Tex.
Yeah. Get Tex into the ruck. Pressed for time, there was one more thing I wanted to touch on. That was Postecoglou.
Okay.
Winning the Europa League.
Yeah.
Secondary European competition, yes, I know, but it's got him into the it's got Spurs into the Champions League.
Yeah.
And Spurs are an absolute shoddy organisation. They're Spursy. For anyone that doesn't know what that is, they manage to balls up things when things go wrong. Balls up things when they shouldn't go wrong. Well, it's probably saved his job.
Definitely saved.
I was going to ask, where does it actually rate?
Look, I think we were all really happy for him. And like I said, even you as a Man U supporter text me to say like you were happy for Ange.
I was happy. Yep.
Yeah. So where does it rate? I don't know, because of the competition, I don't think it rates high, but then because of the implications of what the competition gives you moving forward, it's not just the money. It's like you said, they're now in the Champions League. So, but as far as a trophy goes, I mean, I'm sure there are 10 trophies ahead of it that Spurs could win that they'd value more than the Europa League. But it opens doors and it gives Ange another chance to try to get him into maybe top 4.
And you know what it does? Yeah. Their greatest rivals, Arsenal, had
That's
a great season,
That's it.
finished second.
Finish second.
And guess who walks away with the trophy?
Yeah.
So they can chant and beg and want Arsenal not to win a trophy, then they end up going and winning the trophy, a trophy the next season. Where's karma?
Well,
Should have won that.
That's it.
That's rubbish.
It's all about rivalries, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like I said, yeah, the fact that I got texts when, they lost and they were like, well, thank God, it was, what was it, 5-1?
Yeah.
To Liverpool, and they were like, well, thank God Arsenal can't win the title now. Just got spanked, man. That's, what a stupid comment.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's the culture, and that's the thing that's going to always keep them down, is because of that culture between them and Arsenal.
And so that's why I have it as such a remarkable achievement for Ange.
Yeah.
And even Spurs themselves, because they've got this mental hoodoo off their back.
Yeah.
And there's no excuses next year. If you can't get them up into that top 5, if you're still there, then, that club is destined for the dung heap again.
Look, time will tell, and I'm sure Ange will do well. But you've also got to throw money at it too, don't you?
Yeah, and they've got a great starting, they've got a great 13, 14.
Yeah.
Yeah, the depth got tested this year, didn't it?
Yeah, it did, definitely, before those injuries.
So you're right. Levy needs to open up his purse strings and support his man.
That's it. They're going to have to throw some money.
Yep. Because I believe that the game plan's there. When they've got a full list, they're hard to stop. They are top 4. But when the injuries hit, there's no one there.
Yeah.
You want to close us out?
Yeah. So what do you call an Irishman who lives on the front porch?
So
Patio furniture.